Hey guys, I am coming to you from somewhere along the East Coast. I'm on my way to the Central Coast to spend a month doing camping and bushcraft. And I stopped at a Guzman y Gomez to get a burrito for breakfast. And I had this impulse to create this video about something that a client of mine, I was discussing with a client who is trying to get a VA to help create social media content. I realized this is a really helpful model for anyone who wants to gradually step away from doing all the work around creating social media content and to get help from others to create that content for them in a time efficient, cost effective way without diminishing the quality of the content. And that is key, without making it just sound like AI slop. And I did another video on how to create an AI, an instance of AI that knows your voice. But I realized that piece sits in a bigger puzzle, which is really helpful to know. This video, for example, will go out on YouTube. It'll go out on my blog. It will become a piece of Facebook content. It will become a piece of Instagram content. And my involvement in that is pretty minimal. I create the video, I give it to my VA, she knows exactly what to do, and then I'll do a little bit of editing at some point. But it's a staged process to get there. You don't just go from making the video to it all going out on everything in exactly the right format just immediately. There is a process that enables your staff member to learn you and what you need and create consistent high quality when they're creating your content. So this video is me talking you through that process. It's how to work with someone to become someone who will become that content content amplifier, and how to give them the best chance of becoming that amplifier for you with as little effort as possible. So I'm going to go through these stages, and if your staff member is very highly skilled, you can move through these stages very quickly. And if they're less skilled or less experienced, then you can move through them at the pace that will serve you and them. And the stages are, actually, before I go through those stages, whenever you create content, you're going to have a few different aspects to that content. You're going to have the concept, which is what's the content about, where is it going, and why is it going out? That's the concept. Then you're going to have the raw content, which is like a raw piece of copy or a raw piece of video footage or a raw set of photos that hasn't been processed or edited for a particular platform. So that's raw content. Then you're going to have direction. What do we need to do to that raw content to achieve the goal, to fulfill the concept? And then we're going to have processing or editing. So the copy might be converted into short statements that are going to fit into a carousel, or the video might be edited to be quick bites and some text and subtitles to create a reel. That's the editing. And then there's the final review, which is making sure that the edit fulfills your direction to achieve the concept. So we've got concept, raw content, direction, editing, final review. That's like the basic stages of content creation where you're directing someone to do it for you. So I recommend writing that down. Now, as your support person who's creating this content matures, you can do less and less and less of that yourself and have them do more and more of that for you. Initially, they might just be doing the editing step, but by the end of it, they might be doing 90% of that whole process. So I'm going to talk you through the incremental stages that they need to go through to get from doing 10% to 90%. So the first stage is you create the concept, you create the raw content and you direct them to edit the content, and then you do the final review. So all they're doing is maybe they're taking your copy and they're taking your, let's say for a carousel on Instagram, they're taking your copy, they're taking your brand direction, which could be as simple as look at these posts and make it look like that, or it could be that you have an actual brand guide and templates. So they're taking your visual direction and your copy, and you would, in this first stage, you would actually give them literally the copy that they're going to use for the carousel. You'd say, here are the lines, here's the brand direction, design me a carousel. So they do the design, which is the editing step of that 5-step process. And then you do the final review and give them feedback. And then once you're happy with it, once you've iterated enough, then they can post it. Or if it's a reel, you might say, here's the raw footage, here are some other reels that I want it to look like, here's my direction in which aspects of this footage I want you to include, go edit it. Put in subtitles, make the subtitles look like this. So you're giving them a lot of direction. And then they'll take that content, they'll edit, you'll review it, you'll give feedback until you're happy with it, and then they'll post it. So that's stage one. Stage one is they're just doing editing. You're giving them everything except they're doing the edit. Once they are skilled at this, and in order for them to become skilled at this, they need to understand your style enough to fulfill your directions. So they're going to be learning, and a really, really skilled, capable person will pick it up pretty quickly, like maybe even instantly. Whereas someone who needs a little bit more time, a little bit more direction, it might take a few pieces of content before they're really falling into the flow of understanding what you need and giving it to you. Once they've gotten to that level, then you can start pulling away. So for example, if you're creating a carousel, let's say a carousel, you can give them a raw piece of content that hasn't been edited for a carousel. You can say, edit it for the carousel, and then create the carousel with the graphic design. So now they're starting to step into the territory of copywriting. Or in a post, a Facebook post, you could give them a stream of consciousness piece of content and then have them edit that to be suitable for a Facebook post or an Instagram caption. Or you could give them a bunch of raw content and say, make a reel, this is the event that I want you to promote. And because they already understand your style, they should be able to pick up exactly what to do. You don't need to give them lots of direction. So basically what you're doing is you're giving them raw content and concept, but you're not giving them detailed direction. They have already inferred that based on their past work with you, based on your past content. One thing that really speeds this process up is having a copywriting guide or a brand guide or template post templates. If you want to go straight to this stage, you can create those assets, and then that can fast track this process. And if you want to create those assets, I can provide you with a marketing strategist who can assist you to create those assets, and then any VA will be able to step in a lot quicker and receive way less direction from you as needed. So you've kind of got options in how do you get to this point. You can train them one-on-one, or you can have those assets ready to help fast track it. Option one takes more of your time. Option two, having those assets created might cost more money. So you're paying in time or in money. So that's stage two. The other thing that really helps get a VA to stage two is having an AI that has already been trained in your voice. It's not enough to just give it your website and then just continue in one conversation again and again and again, because the AI forgets what happened in the history of the conversation. You need to set the AI up so that it has permanent access to your brand content. And I've done another tutorial on that, which you can access. So that's stage two. So you're giving them the concept, the raw content, and then they're taking charge of the direction and the editing, and then you'll do the final review and the post. Stage 3, you pull back even further. You might not even give them the raw content. If you've got a really good AI that's been very well trained, they could make copy by themselves, and then they do the whole process of creating the carousel or the caption, and then you just do the final edit. Now, in this territory, you run the risk of creating generic content or content that doesn't represent you. So you need to be active in the final edit. You need to make sure that the final edit is really good, and you need to inform the VA of the changes that you're making. I would even say to the VA, here's my final edit. I want you to compare what you wrote to what I wrote and give me a summary of everything that I did and why I did it, so that I can understand that you're learning. And if they do that a few times, they're going to pick it up really quickly and have the ability to create raw copy for you. We're not at the stage where most VAs can create raw video. At some point in the next few years, AI will be able to do that for sure, but we're not there in this moment. But eventually they'll be able to create the video of you as well. So doing this process is actually really good practice, because as AI matures, these skills are going to become really, really valuable. So that's stage 3, is that basically they're creating raw copy as well as understanding direction and editing the copy for the channel that they're creating for. So that's stage 3. Stage 4 is that you're not even giving them the concept of the post. They're actually working out the concept of the post themselves. And at this stage, they're going to create what's called a content plan. So you might say, I've got a launch for an event. The event's in 2 weeks. I want you to create a content plan with 10 posts over 2 weeks. I want you to come up with the concept and the goal and the platform for each post. And I'm going to review that content plan. And then when I'm happy with it, you're going to create the raw copy. You're going to choose which photos from my photo library to use, or choose which video from my video library to use. You're going to create all the content, and then I can review it all. And this is amazing. This is a lot of leverage to be able to give so much freedom to someone to create so much content with so little of your time. But of course, in order for them to get there, they need to understand your style and your brand. So all the training in those previous stages and the assets that you create for them is what's going to get them to that point. So what is realistic in terms of a timeline to get a VA to that point? It depends on their level of skill coming in. It depends on how much time you spend with them, and it depends on the assets that you give them right from the beginning that speed up their learning process, and the AI that you set up for them. If for a VA, an offshore VA who's one from our agency, so that's like, we usually reject 100 to 200 to 300 applications to pick that one person. So this is like the cream of the crop of our offshore VAs. It's realistic that you could get stage 1 nailed within a month, stage 2 already started within that first month, stage 3 might take 2 to 3 months, and then stage 4 might take, I don't know, 3 to 4 months. By month 3 or month 4, I should really think about that. Maybe month 4 to 6, you could get to stage 4, but that would mean actively training them and giving them the assets that they need. So that the benefits of working with someone compound over time. The more you invest in them, the faster they get, the more return on your investment. That's kind of how this works. We're looking to cultivate long-term relationships where the workflow becomes a finely tuned system, and you get real benefit out of them creating content for you. Cool. What else can I share on this topic that could be relevant? I guess what I would just position it in the broader context that coaches, facilitators, therapists, schools, people who are educating in the business, health, wellness, personal development, spirituality, relationship spaces. These people, we spend a lot of time producing content on social media, and it's a really common source of burnout. And you need to anticipate at some point in the horizon, you may just have enough of creating social media, and it may become a real block in the growth of your business. And having the people, the team set up and the system set up to ease your workload on that front will open up that bottleneck. So the smart business owner will be sorting this stuff out early. They're getting that flow on early before the burnout starts to set in, so that when the motivation to create content diminishes, the team's already there, it's already working, and the business can scale in the way that you need it to. Cool. I think that's all I have to share on this topic. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to teach more. Any aspect of how to work with a VA, I include that in the service for a mentoring from me on that topic. So yeah, I'm happy to help flesh out any further details. Hope you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.